Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. Well, what an eventful signing day it has been thus far. And beyond just the players, a huge story this signing day, how coaches are faring at their new schools. You saw Brian Kelly there, of course, going to USC. Brian Kelly, LSU. I had Lincoln Riley on the brain going to USC. Mario Cristobal now at Miami going home. And then you got Billy Napier taking over at Florida. All three expected to make a big impact when it comes to recruiting. Let's welcome back in our guys. We have Andrew Ivins and Steve Wiltfong. I'm Amanda Guerra. Now joining you, we're giving Chris Hassel and Josh Pate a break. We need to find the man some water and some chapstick. That's what he needs there. Let's start with Brian Kelly at LSU. We're going to talk winner and loser here. Brian Kelly, how he's faring so far today. Andrew, we'll start with you. Winner or loser?
I think you could go win here.
Okay.
All right, you got Quincy Wiggins, a top 100 pass rusher. You got him in the boat. Some other guys, Jordan Allen, an in-state defensive back who, some schools Penn State was in on him at one time, and then last night he flipped Landon Ibieta, an in-state wide receiver. So I would give them a W, I guess. Do I mark it like that?
Yeah, what about you? What do you think about Brian Kelly so far here?
Held on to DeMario Tolan as well. Other schools in the conference were trying to come in on him. So I'm in agreement. Walker Howard stayed firm. Quarterback commit, number 5 player at the position, 5-star. Recruit still in the fold for LSU, so it's a win under the circumstances.
I feel like it would be a small W so far. You guys are giving up.
And it's a program that's finished in the top 5 of our rankings 3 years in a row, so they're sitting at 23. But when you go through 6-6 and you go through a coaching change and you don't get started till the last week, to win a few guys that they think can help them play championship level football, hang on to some of your top recruits, we can't kill you for that.
Let's talk about Lincoln Riley at, USC, not at OU anymore. He did pull a lot of guys from Oklahoma, but we're talking about signing day, what he's been able to do so far. USC, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, started late last night outside the top 100. How are they looking so far?
Well, they're in the top 100 now. That's good. Incomplete on them, right? They got Zion Branch, a very talented safety out of Las Vegas, Bishop Gorman. We rolled his footage. He can do it all. He's got a good background. Cliff Branch is his grandfather. They got Garrison Madden, a linebacker I like out of Georgia, who I think is kind of flown under the radar. But there's still some big names in play and guys we're not going to know about for a few weeks. So I don't want to knock Lincoln Riley yet. Damani Jackson's one of those guys that's still out there who I love as a cornerback. I think he's every bit of a blue chipper. Cyrus Moss, another name that's in play. He visited over the weekend. So incomplete now for me. I don't know if Steve's going to agree.
Well, they're top 10 in 2023 now, too. Came right in and flipped some guys.
You have a taste 2022. 2022.
So
Don't go there, Steve.
Well, look, I think they're going to get Damani Jackson, increased confidence there. The number 1 player out west there, 5-star cornerback. So love USC there. And they also went into the state of Georgia and landed a linebacker, Garrison Madden, who's one of the fastest players in the country at the position, who I think is going to be a really good football player for them. I don't think that they were in a rush to take guys just to fill a class. They could have done that. They could have got the spatula out and flipped some kids committed to other schools in the Pac-12. But they're looking for championship level players. Coach Riley had that thing close in Norman, and at USC that's going to be the expectation. So they weren't going to just take Johnny Average to come play for them. They're looking for guys like Damani Jackson and Zion Branch and sleepers like Garrison Madden. And so I like that approach, and we'll see what they do in 2023. I think they'll have a chance to return to the top 10 where they were last year.
All right, let's talk about Mario Cristobal at Miami. Before I got here on the desk, I'm going to start with you, Steve, because I heard you mentioning Miami and maybe some good things going on for them. Mario Cristobal brought in, because he's from the Miami area. He needs to keep these guys in South Florida. How are they doing so far, winner or loser?
Well, they had a big win on the trail today, and Nigel Kelly, one of the top pass rushers in state. They hold on to Kamari Rogers, a top 247 cornerback from the state of Mississippi who visited the Bulldogs a couple times. It's tough to go into that state and win recruiting battles, and maybe they make a splash here at the end of the day with another kid that was committed to Oregon. But similar to LSU, similar to USC, these guys are taking small classes, and I think a part of that is also because of the portal. You can go into the portal and find some guys that might be some difference makers instead of taking a chance on an 18-year-old kid that you maybe not even fully believe in just to stock your roster. You can go into the portal and get a young man that's got some college tape that you can evaluate.
I'm going to go winner, right? Miami, they're sitting in the 60s. They entered in the 60s. Steve mentioned keeping Kamari Rogers committed. I think getting Jakari Brown, a quarterback out of Georgia, top 247 kid, he announced on CBS Sports HQ a ways back. A bunch of schools came calling once they realized Manny Diaz was likely on the way out, and Mario talked him into staying. So that's a win for me. Steve mentioned Nigelique Kelly. I think there was a time when Florida State felt really good. Heck, Florida State held his commitment. Auburn came in late. They keep him in the boat. And there's still some other bullets out there, some ammo. Marcus Banks, one of the top transfers out there at Alabama cornerback. I think Miami feels really good there. And they're still fighting for some other guys. Jaleel Skinner, a top 3 at his position, tight end. They're fighting for him. I'm getting some texts about it now. They think there's a chance they might be able to get him from Alabama. So I give Miami a win, and he mentioned 2023 with the other guys. I think Miami in 2023 is going to be very good, potentially top 5 class.
All right, Miami fans, something to look forward to there. Let's talk about Billy Napier in Florida, though, winner or loser. I feel like it has to be winner, right? Getting Kamari Wilson to commit their 5-star safety, number 2 overall for 24/7 Sports. What do you think?
Yeah, I would have had an L down for Florida, and then
prior to that.
Yeah, prior to that. I mean, I think this is a big flip. I mentioned it. He reminds me of some throwback Florida safeties, to be honest. Matt Elam, a few different guys. He just fits that secondary. He's an in-the-box type of guy. He's been able to step in, play special teams. He just makes plays. You know, he's a 2-year starter at IMG Academy, which is one of the top programs in the country. It's a talent factory, and we always thought it was going to be Georgia with him. So for Florida to come in and get him, that's huge. And then they got another defensive back today, Devin Moore, who I know Steve is a huge fan of. He's another was all over the place. I think Corey Raymond, who Billy Napier hired, pulled him away from LSU to be his defensive backs coach. That's a big reason why they got these two. And I mentioned it. You know, Billy Napier is going to be all about what the Billy Napier way is. And if you're a Florida fan, this should be encouraging that they got these 2 defensive backs. We'll see what they can get in that second window, but we'll really know about him in 2023.
Notre Dame was making the college football playoff and New Year's Six Bowls with players like Devin Moore. And that's what Coach Napier and his staff are looking for on the trail, are difference makers like that. And they kind of cleaned house right when they got there. I mean, I think that they have a plan in place for what they're looking for on the trail. And Billy Napier is going to be involved in all of that, from organizing the board, from evaluating film, to recruiting their top targets. And then he put together a staff that I think understands recruiting and relationships and having a motor out there on the trail and building relationships and guys that have connections. And I think they're going to have a couple more exciting hires before all said and done that'll help boost them on the trail. But getting those 2 defensive backs, those are guys that they believe in. To beat out Georgia, that's their rival. For Kamari Wilson, that Georgia was favored for the longest for him. And then to basically flip Devin Moore from Notre Dame, a school that he had been committed to for a while, those are big recruiting wins to get your foundation in place.
All right, finally, let's talk about Brent Venables there at Oklahoma. We do know that he did lose a bunch of 2023 recruits that are now headed to USC. But let's talk about signing day when it comes to Oklahoma. Andrew, we'll start with you.
There wasn't any big fireworks really today with Oklahoma. We kind of saw it yesterday and the day prior. Nick Evers, Florida's former quarterback commits. We just talked about Florida's class, top 247 talent, Elite 11 finalist. He wants to play for Jeff Lebby, who will be Brent Venables' offensive coordinator. So that's a win. There were some other schools involved there. And then they get one of the Sunshine State's best receivers, Jaden Gibson, a big 6'5" kid who was also previously committed to Florida. They got those 2 guys in the boat. Tough situation for all these new coaches we keep mentioning. You get in, you're trying to hire your staff, you're trying to move, try to get your family all situated. So they don't have a lot of room to work with. But all these guys, they all at least got one big win in my eyes. And I also want to point out just an update on the race to number 1.
Yes.
Cam Dewberry, he's in for Texas A&M. Jahad Campbell, I should say, top 247 defensive end. He's in for Alabama. So right now, A&M's in first, right behind them, a few points. It's Alabama.
Less than a point.
Yeah, less than a point. And then you got Georgia. And we said at the beginning when this all started, anything over 320 is historical. That'd be top 5 all time for a class. And we got 2 at 315 right now. 2
Just
classes.
Incredible.
Walter Nolan's dad, the jewel of the class, texted me earlier today and said this is going to be the best class ever. And then you have Jimbo Fisher on with us earlier and say no surprises. Everything's going the way we drew it up. It certainly has for A&M today and much of the cycle, and then Jahad Campbell for Alabama to come in. That was one that was actually trending A&M's way. When he decommitted from Clemson, Jahad Campbell, if you would ask me that day, I would have said he's going to be an Aggie. but then he takes a visit to Alabama that Friday into Saturday, then goes to College Station, compares the two, and in his opinion, for himself and his future, he rolls with the Crimson Tide, and that's a big pickup for them, one of the most athletic front seven players in the country.
Anything else you wanted to mention, though, when it goes back to, and we're going to get to more of these and the rankings changing a little bit, but with Brent Venables in Oklahoma, winner or loser in your eyes?
Well, they got one more out there, perhaps. Jaron Kanak, who's a freak athlete from the state of Kansas, where Brent Venables is from, committed to Clemson, did not put pen to paper. So I think that is leaning towards him ultimately following Venables to Norman and playing in that defense. Brent Venables was one of the more visible head coach recruiters in the country, or excuse me, one of the more visible defensive coordinator recruiters in the country. So it was a big blow to Clemson when he left for guys like Dalen Everett, Keon Sabb. They committed to play for him in that defense, and so when he left, it opened the door for a guy like Jahad Campbell to go to Alabama. Jaron Kanak's in that same situation, and I actually think he's going to follow him to Oklahoma and play for the Sooners.
You guys mentioned some of the big commitments that we just had go down in the past couple of minutes here. So here are the rankings, and this is where they were. Yes, our computer, as our producer Toli is telling me, is that the computer's trying to catch up there. A&M is now #1. We'll talk a little bit more about that, exactly who they got and how they were able to jump Alabama. That is next. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.